Yes, I'll keep on living.
There are places out there you can't find on any map. They're not gone. They're just lost.
Put them down, boys.
What is that thing on your face?
Puberty's right around the corner, kid. You can grow your own.
I don't think you guys get enough credit for how funny you are. Like, you know what I mean?
Thanks,
Like you are like a truly funny guy who's incredibly capable at improv. And so for me, it was thrilling just to get you two like going back and forth and the banter, and so much of that, as I recall, was improvised. Like of you guys just giving each other crap on the day.
Sure.
It develops into this real bond and this like, you know, true like reliance on each other and appreciation ultimately.
It was a lot of fun. It was challenging. It was daunting having the confidence to improvise and put yourself in a vulnerable position. Because anytime you improvise and it's not funny, it's horrible. Like it's a horrible thing when the director comes in and says, yeah, that line's not working. Just say what it says on the page. But it was a lot of fun, and we very quickly got into a rhythm in which we knew how to push each other's buttons and how to bring out the best in each other from a humor point of view.
It's cool to hear that your process of improvising and pushing each other's buttons sounds so similar to how Noel North and Richard McConaughey worked.
Right.
Like
Oh, that's
Nate
so
and Sully
funny.
in the game.
That's brilliant.
So much of their banter was improvised.
Oh, really?
You got a great ass, Sully.
Thanks.
Yeah, Naughty Dog historically has been a very animation-driven company, but more like hand-drawn animation or hand-keyed animation. So we created Crash Bandicoot, for example, and then Jack and Daxter got more like a bit more realistic, but still very stylized. And with Uncharted, it's the first time we felt like we had the technology and the resources to tell a story with human characters. Our approach when we started this franchise was like, how do we capture the feel of a summer blockbuster on the controller?
Yeah.
And that's like, so we would just study like Indiana Jones, Die Hard, Mission Impossible, just all these like kind of summer blockbusters and be like, how do we kind of replicate? And now it's like the reverse is happening is like, you guys are now looking at the game and like, how do we reverse back into like cinema?
You know what I was really impressed with was the fight sequences on the boats, because they were, it was really impressive. I think you captured the idea of how Nate and Sully would fight. It's a brawl. It's not like a really coordinated, well choreographed fight. It just felt like a brawl, which was really great to see.
It's a fine line because you want to give the audiences that exciting hand-to-hand combat, which is quick and exciting and intricate. But then again, Nate is not a trained fighter. He's just someone who is incredibly capable. There are moves in the film which are stolen straight from the games. You know, when you like get caught up, you can like elbow them over the top and then step under. So there's stuff like that we stole, but the balance of trying to make it look really cool while also being believable was tricky. And there's some creative freedom that we took.
Yeah, I think that hand-to-hand stuff is really, really cool. But I mean, it's interesting, or at least worth talking about, kind of the sequence out of the back of the plane, just because that's the one that's truly where you just wanted to like take a moment that everyone would recognize from the games, and then try and bring it to life on the screen.
Because I've been thinking about that sequence. It's one of the most iconic from the Uncharted series. I remember I was sitting next to Kurt Marganow, who was the designer in that sequence, and seeing it come to life and little bits of mocap as they kept adding it more and more, and it just. By the time they were finished, it was so thrilling, and right when Nate like hits that crate and spins in the air, I've never seen anything like that in the video game, and it's playable. And I was like, oh, you guys' challenge is to you remove the interactive part, now you gotta make it even more exciting visually. And kudos to you, you pulled it off. Like it's so, like you're gripping the seat when you're watching that sequence, just the audio design of it. Just like the way you hear wind and the way like the music cuts in and out. It's brilliantly filmed.
I remember us designing that sequence and putting our heads together, and you know, Scott Rogers did an incredible job of figuring out the physics and logistics of how we were going to shoot that sequence. And that's the hardest thing I've ever done on screen.
Shots like that are normally probably done on blue screen or green screen. The fact that you were using, I think there was these big robot arms that they used probably in car
Cooper
manufacturing.
arms, yeah.
That was just, that showing the whole cargo plane scenes sort of moving, the crates moving. I thought that was really impressive. That this is practically shot.
Yeah, it really scared me because those Cougar arms would have different levels. So like some of them would like rock like this, or some of them would spin, and sometimes I would be attached to it. And well, I wasn't attached. I was on wires, and I had to hang on, and then they would spin it. And like you do the first take, and you'd be at level 4, and you're like, I reckon I can go to level 5. Then you do level 5. And like, that wasn't that much harder. Do you know what? Do level 8, and then they go, and you're all of a sudden like hanging on for dear life. And obviously, the faster you spin, the further you fly when you let go. So then you're like really holding on because you're afraid of flying into a crane or something. But like you always know something's going to be tough when you see your double who's tested the stunt all morning, and they're like, good luck, mate, have a good day.
This is not going to be a good day. Oh my God.
I want to recreate from the games, and if we're lucky enough to get to make another one of these, the car chase. I think the greatest car chase ever filmed in any movie or anything was in which
Uncharted 4.
Uncharted 4.
Yeah.
Well, when you're like crashing through all those people's
that is
houses.
like
You're jumping from
I
car
want
to
to do
car.
that car like I've done plenty of car chases in my career, but that car chase is unparalleled.
Yeah, I remember
think.
playing that game, shooting Spider-Man 1, and then being like, we're ready for you on set. And we were like, no, I'm doing this car chase, leave us alone.
Remember that car chase, we kept like one-upping ourselves? Like,
Yeah,
okay, what if we add like a moment where you jump and now you start driving the Jeep next to it?
Yeah.
And then like, what if Sam, the brother, shows up and like now you jump on a motorcycle and you're being chased by, and we just kept going more and more. Because we knew it was like, that might be our last bite of the apple with Uncharted 4. I was like, so this has to be the best set piece we've ever made.
Yeah, I'm gunning for that one. Maybe you can talk a little bit about your contribution, because I want to give you credit, because so many of the moments, great moments in the film, were things that you said we'd stage it or rehearse it or whatever, and you're like, yeah, it's good, but we got to make it better.
I just wanted to satisfy the fans of the games. Like, there's even a moment, I know it's not in the film, but there was a moment where Nate first gets into the boat and he finds a note from Magellan. And when I play these video games, I like to be the person that explores everything. I find every piece of paper and I read everything and I like to know the whole thing. And I always used to really love the way that he would turn the paper over. So I was like, you need to do a shot over my shoulder and just get me doing that.
That's great.
And then putting it down again. And you were like, why? I was like, no, that's what you do in the game. Like, that's a big part of the game. And then I don't think it's in there because it's just slow and
it's just
but it's just minor details like that.
It will be a deleted scene in the film. So for all those guys watching, it'll be.
Well, that moment where in that ship where you see Nate in his outfit, like in his like kind of familiar costume, and he's got the holster, and you hear Nate's theme playing, like as just a fan, not even someone that worked on it. Like I got the hairs on the back of my neck standing up in that moment.
Obviously, you worked on some big existing franchises, obviously Spider-Man, and now with Uncharted. So how do you sort of toe that line between trying to meet the expectation of fans' view of that character versus trying to bring your own spin?
It's interesting. You have to kind of be unapologetic.
Yeah.
You know, you can't do it for other people because otherwise you'll end up doing it for the wrong reasons. You know, I was adamant that I would, pay respects and maintain the heart and soul of the character, but bring this refreshing version of this character that we all know and love to life. So I try not to think about the ramifications of changing stuff.
Yeah.
Because then you just are going to do a complete replica. You know, because if
Right,
Ruben
it's an
wanted,
impression.
it's an impression. Like if he wanted me to, like I could have gone away with Rick and taken the time and learned how to do Nolan's voice, and I could have figured it out. But I'm not Nolan North. Like that's not who I am, and so I wanted to bring what Tom Holland would bring to the character. So you have to just be unapologetic and trust that your instincts are right.
Yeah, and I think just generally when you're adapting material, or at least my approach with both Venom and Uncharted was like, it works as a comic book or it works as a video game, but ultimately we're making a movie, so it has to work as a movie. And we're not just trying to recreate what's already been done, we have to make our own. And while we have to be faithful to the source material, we can't be faithful to a fault where we're compromising the success of what we're trying to do, which is the film.
It's one of those things where I'm really excited to show my friends and family this movie, because as an actor, all of my friends are carpenters or like people in the real world. And when you try and say to them like, I made this movie and it nearly broke me, they're like, I don't understand, like you do make-believe for a living. So I'm really, really excited to share this movie with my friends and family.
It makes me think a lot about when we were making Uncharted 4 and trying to think of really diving into who Nathan Drake is, and like he's trying to find his purpose in life, and he keeps finding these treasures, and it's not satisfying to the degree that he imagined it should be. And to me, that was always a parallel to like the work that we do as artists, whether it's a game or a movie, or you just pour your heart into it. But there's always like some other component that has to be there, which is like sharing it with your friends or your family and finding that balance.
Getting to make this movie for me was literally a dream come true, just because it's my favorite genre, and I'd walk around these sets and just couldn't imagine that this was my job and that I was lucky enough to do it. Like it was every aspect of it was a dream come true. So I completely relate to that feeling of greatness from small beginnings, because you sit there watching a movie as a kid and then getting to actually make something to the same effect, like it's pretty special.
See you in hell, kid.